I would like to expand on my last video where I was talking about resources for bystanders who either want to observe and document what is happening when ICE comes to their neighborhood, or they would like to consider actively intervening. Again, I'm going to preface this with you should talk to your attorney first. And also preface it with the reality, unfortunately, that the folks who are claiming to be part of federal law enforcement, potentially ICE, are showing up with their faces covered, refusing to tell you their name or their badge number, refusing to tell you what department, what agency they work for. That's illegal, by the way. We are literally seeing masked, armed men who will not identify who they work for, will not show a warrant, snatching people off the streets and out of their homes, shoving them in cars and disappearing them. I've shared multiple videos of women who have come home from work and their husbands are gone. They only know because of security camera footage, and they have no idea where they've been taken. Loved ones are not notified. People are being dragged off the streets with no warrant. There have been a lot of reports that some of these folks claiming to be law enforcement, and maybe they've been hired by the federal government, are January 6ers, are Proud Boys, are Oath Keepers, etc., that they lack the training, but they're fully armed. We're seeing ICE be the Gestapo of the United States. Right, we're basically seeing the equivalent of the German SA paramilitary groups, and it's hard to distinguish because they won't tell you who they are, whether they are part of the American SA or the American SS. We're either watching these masked men roll up with no warrant at all or an administrative warrant, which is from an immigration judge. Immigration judges are not really real judges. They are a member of the executive branch. Their boss is Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. They're not part of the judiciary. That's because immigration court is not a criminal court. And immigration judges are not truly neutral or independent. They work for Pam Bondi. So these federal agents will show up with an administrative warrant from an immigration judge, which is not the same thing as a bench warrant from a real judge. Or they will show up with nothing at all. They don't have respect for the rule of law. They don't care about following procedure. They work for a woman, the Attorney General, and her boss, the president, even though we know the Attorney General is supposed to be the people's attorney. Pam Bondi is Trump's basically personal attorney and puppet. And so I just want folks to be aware that if you interface with these guys, there is no guarantee that your rights will be respected. Look at what happened to the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, and 3 members of Congress from New Jersey doing their job, conducting federal oversight. The mayor's now been charged, and Pam Bondi is threatening to charge the 3 members of Congress with obstruction, because they're trying to expose what ICE is doing, and they were doing their job. At least that is what the mayor and the reps are saying. They did nothing illegal. Again, just like no guarantee that there's going to be any good faith engagement from folks who work for the federal government. No guarantee that they're going to tell the truth, and definitely no guarantee that they will be constrained by the law. So understanding all of that going in, I would like to share a little bit more from an organization that I shared in my last video. It's called UnitedWeDream.org. They have a whole section on their website called How U.S. Citizens Can Protect the Immigrant Community from the Deportation Force. I want to read a little bit, but I encourage you to go there. You can sign up for their updates, but also they have little cards that you can print out about knowing your rights and what to do if ICE comes to your door. These are resources for you if you are a bystander who is recording and reporting what has happened, but they're also resources for members of your community who might be targeted by ICE. Now, more than ever, it is important for U.S. citizen allies of immigrants to support the immigrant community by taking real actions if they witness a raid by Trump's deportation force. But what can you do? Here are some ways that you can support. If you see ICE checkpoints, you could ask, why are they stopping? Why are they searching vehicles? And where are they taking individuals being detained? You have a right to ask questions. That's not interfering. We know that protected individuals, people who look like citizens, people who clearly have privilege, when they question authority, even just like have a presence in a situation, we know that the potential for illegal things to be done by law enforcement against vulnerable people, that lessens. Just your presence is a deterrence. If ICE asks you, an American citizen, for your ID on a train, bus, or other space, refuse to show your ID. Ask questions about why they're there in the first place and put yourself between ICE agents and undocumented individuals. I would be careful with that last one right now. Understand, again, talk to an attorney, understand the risk that you may be undertaking when you do that. And definitely be filming the whole time so they can't claim something like, she shoved me, or, she put her hands on me. Have it all filmed. Better yet, have a friend who's with you who's filming. If you see ICE agents standing outside of homes, inquire who they are searching for and why. Always ask for a warrant and remind other people of their rights, that you have a right to see the warrant. If you see somebody being detained, ask, why is this person being detained and where are they being transferred to? I think this is really important as we're watching people come home from work or school and find that their loved ones are missing and law enforcement has left no information about what's happened to them. They simply disappear. I feel like every time I talk about ICE, this quote is entirely relevant, so I'm going to read it once again. Families are torn apart. Men, women, and children are separated. Children come home from school to find that their parents have disappeared. That was written by Anne Frank in her diary, January 1943. But it could have just as easily been written in the United States of America in 2025. Record the interaction and follow the guidelines when doing so. If you're recording it, you want to make sure your audio and your video are ready to go and that it's linked to the cloud. When you're recording, ask for the officer's name, badge, and agency. Narrate the date. Say out loud what the date, time, and location of the event are. Do not disclose any information about your neighbors, your loved ones, or yourself to the agents. And then you report the incident and send the video to migrawatch@unitedwedream.org. Make sure whenever possible to record badge numbers, license plates, and everything that happened in the incident. Write it down and videotape it. Just saying, contemporaneous notes are admissible in court. As much as possible, try to learn and document what role ICE officers and local law enforcement both played during the activity. We learned that from what happened in Worcester, Massachusetts, when the community called the Worcester police and asked for their assistance against the illegal things that ICE was doing. The police instead ended up helping ICE. Which, like, my understanding is that in that location, police are not allowed to assist ICE. So we'll see what comes of that. Identify folks who would be interested in risking arrest to support stopping the raid. Again, if you want to do civil disobedience, talk that through with your lawyer. That needs to be scripted in advance, and I am not recommending anybody do that. But I understand that folks are going to. But if you do, don't let it be a wasted effort. You can, and I would argue should, create a group with a plan to respond to raids, assign roles to members of the group, examine the potential strategies and how to maybe stop the raid. There have been multiple instances dating back all the way to 2017 where regular citizens have stopped ICE from hauling people off. Or the large response from members of the community has gotten people released back to their homes. I said this in the last video, know your rights as a U.S. citizen. You have a right to be present, observing, bearing witness, praying, photographing, and videotaping. Please be aware that your right to videotape a law enforcement action may vary state to state, so learn exactly what it is in your state that you're allowed to do. Warns you and asks you to step back while videoing or photographing, it is best to follow directions, as they may confiscate your camera if you don't, or they may try to claim that you are obstructing what they're doing. Assign someone in your group to de-escalate the situation if you are able to gain space while activity is happening. De-escalation skills are just like so crucial to everything that we're doing right now. Cannot recommend enough that we all get trained in how to de-escalate a situation. Supporting the community is not just about trying to stop a raid. It's also about mobilizing and organizing people to help in the fallout of a raid when families have been separated. Absolutely, it's the support afterward that families really need, and I think that's where we have a chance to be the most effective. Unfortunately, I don't personally think there's a high likelihood that we're going to stop most of these incidents where migrants are being dragged away by ICE, but they and their families will need support afterward. So think about what that kind of mutual aid would look like. Think about what that support and people care would look like. I really like this one. Be ready to show up and do a vigil at the ICE field office, detention center, or jail where the folks from your neighborhood are being held. Be ready to advocate for the folks there to be released. And I would say bring in the press, notify everybody, blast that shit on social media. Put your prayer vigil all over social media. If someone from your neighborhood is snatched by ICE, y'all need to be ready to have a plan of action that, like, boom, you can put it into place immediately. Who do we mobilize that can get to the ICE field office or detention center in the next hour? Who is in charge of notifying the press about the vigil that we're doing? Who's in charge of checking on the family that remains behind? Who's calling an immigration lawyer? Get your plans together now so that we can be more effective in supporting folks and fighting back against what this regime is doing to terrorize our neighbors.